Good morning and welcome. My name is Justin Waddell and I have the pleasure of serving as mayor on behalf of the City of Walnut Creek for this year. And I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Walnut Creek City Council. I'm grateful that each of you can attend and be here today to celebrate with us the servicemen and women who so bravely served in defense of our great nation. First on the program, we have the presentation of the colors by Walnut Creek Troop, Boy Scout Troop 810, the playing of the national anthem by the Walnut Creek Concert Band, and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Silva. Please rise for the presentation of colors.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Chaplain William Herbert from John Muir Hospital right here in Walnut Creek. Chaplain Herbert is here today to give the blessing of this ceremony. Please lead us in an invocation which will be followed by Eternal Father, Strong to Save, performed by the Walnut Creek Concert Band.
Let us bow our heads as we join in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you to love our men and women who are in uniform at this time. Protect them in their time of need. Give them help and stability and allow them to return home to their loved ones, whole and unshaken. Be with their families also and give them strength in this uncertain time. Give strength and peace of mind to the veterans who gave their best for the country they love. Support them as they age and teach us to remember their sacrifices and also to express our gratitude. Their service has helped ensure our way of life. To those who serve at home, police, firefighters, EMTs, also keep them safe as they protect us from harm. Lord, hear us as we present our prayer to you. God bless America. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Herbert, for your inspiring words. Thank you to the Boy Scout Troop 810 from Walnut Creek for the presentation of colors. And as always, thank you to the Walnut Creek Concert Band for their rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. Thank you to the Mayor Pro Tem, Cindy Silva, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now let me introduce my other esteemed colleagues here today. We have Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Silva and fellow council members Rich Carlston, Loyola Haskew, and Kevin Wilk. Also here today, it's my pleasure to say that we have the two supervisors that represent Walnut Creek, Supervisor Karen Mitchoff and Supervisor Candace Anderson. And in the audience today, we have Teresa Geringer, who is representing Senator Steve Glazier. The Great War, the war to end all wars, now known as World War I, ended on June 28th in 1919 in the Palace of Versailles. Yet in reality, the war ended 7 months earlier on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour. For this reason, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as Armistice Day, which was later ratified by Congress in 1938. President Wilson declared, and I quote, "The reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, with both of the thing from which it was which freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of nations." The designation armistice was changed to Veterans Day by the 83rd Congress in 1954 to become a celebration of all veterans of all wars, a celebration to honor veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for our common good. We are here today to honor those heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, their dedication, and to reflect upon the fact that our flag still waves because they never wavered. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Captain Jeffrey A. Miller. He began his career in the U.S. Navy in 1987, enlisting in the United States Naval Reserve while still finishing high school. He earned his bachelor's degree in history from the University of Maine in 1993, and then was commissioned as an ensign, and was designated as a surface warfare officer. Captain Miller served aboard the USS Comstock, the USS Conley, the USS O'Bannon, the USS Cushing, and served as command of the USS Tempest from September 7th, 2001 to May 2003. The USS Tempest was deployed throughout the eastern seaboard and the Gulf of Mexico post 9/11. His final command ride was as the commanding officer of the USS Rents, assuming command in Bahrain. Shore assignments include the Naval War College, where Captain Miller earned a bachelor's degree in International Affairs and Strategic Planning. He is currently the Maritime Home Defense Officer in charge at the Coast Guard Area Pacific in Alameda in the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Please join me in welcoming Captain Jeffrey Miller.
So as he introduced me, any sailor out there in the audience knows that I'm just a sailor, and I just executed orders. And I've been lucky to execute orders since 1987. I'd like to thank Mayor Waddell and Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Silver, and the council members Ms. Askew and Mr. Wilk, and of course Mr. Carlston, which I don't know if anybody out there knows, but Mr. Carlston, I believe, served in the Army for 4 years. He's also a lawyer, and it's taken all of my internal discipline and strength not to come up with an Army joke and a lawyer joke at the same time. And I'm doing my level best, I tell you. I'm doing my best. But thank you for inviting me to be here today. And for you guys that don't know how different this city council is, all across America, today's ceremony, which is very important, is actually done by sponsors. VFW, American Vets. They push their elected officials to do this, and these guys built it in their budget, and they've been doing it for more than 20 years. As a matter of fact, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but they've been doing it a good long time. And that guarantees, when you put it in your budget, that the vets are going to be recognized. So good on you. I'm humbled with this ceremony because this ceremony recognizes the sacrifices and dedication and the immense contributions of so many men and women of this great country. And I have to do a full disclosure. I wrote this speech before the incident happened in 1,000 Oaks and down in Southern California where a Marine Corps vet killed some citizens and then took his own life. But I didn't change my speech at all because my speech is about him in one way or another. Now, veterans are a tough bunch, and speaking to veterans is a daunting task. You can't sugarcoat anything with a veteran. You have to shoot straight because they are the proverbial been there, done that, and they deserve a lot better than the pomp and circumstances that we sometimes give them. I recently got involved with a veterans group, a charity called Take the Rock. And like all veterans, we are a little bit off. We swim from Alcatraz into the bay. But the mission of that group isn't to swim Alcatraz, even though that's what Take the Rock means. It's really to help veterans, whether they've been a veteran of the Korean War, the Vietnam War, or the recent wars, or no wars at all, to acclimatize and adjust to civilian society. And that mission really struck a chord with me, obviously, because I've never had a job. I've been in the military since I was 17. So as tough as our veterans are in our society, I believe they're truly vulnerable. Issues that our own family and our friends will never truly understand or appreciate. The challenges of fitting in, with little or no one to talk to while you make your transition, and sometimes that transition takes years, sometimes it takes decades. And you're surrounded by a lot of people that care about you. But when veterans serve in the military, we belong to something. Veterans belong to an organization that the cause and the purpose is bigger than any individual self. And I'm totally empathetic with the baby crying because I know my voice. I'm from New England and I have an annoying voice. I apologize. But, so you go from being part of something bigger than yourself, part of a team, and then some of us just transfer over to just making a paycheck week to week, having a purpose to just getting paid. Because people in the military, we ain't doing it to get rich. We don't make that much money. It's for our country. And that transition is hard. And it's hard to make that happen. And when you're surrounded by family and friends that love you, and you're still alone, that loneliness, the loneliness when you're surrounded by people who care about you, is the worst form of loneliness of all. Now, because of the way I feel, I know there must be some great organizations that support our vets, and pre-vets like me, active duty guys, or the reservists, or the guardsmen waiting to be called up, because I'm surprised the number 22 is so low. Now, if you don't know what I mean about the number 22, the Veterans Administration estimates that 22 vets commit suicide every day. That's 8,030 people a year. And I'm surprised it's not more. And the reason why I'm surprised it's not more is because our society does not handle depression or suicide well. Basically is, just take a pill. Go talk to somebody, but just don't talk to me about it. That's the long and the short of it with a lot of the mental health care that our vets try to get. Trust me. Serving in the armed forces is a unique lifestyle. A lifestyle that if you serve for 2 years, 5 years, or 30, it's difficult to explain to someone who's never served. And when you look at who works at the VA, not a lot of vets. But that's our own fault. Only 3% of our society, 3% of the citizens in America are even eligible to serve in the military. So when you think about it, our labor pool, we don't have a lot of vets to draw upon. It's our own fault. You get what you get. And the sacrifices that the military make, even during peacetime, are actually unimaginable, inconceivable by the average civilian. Imagine what we have to endure during conflict. And this country has always been in some sort of conflict or another since we were created. The burden that we in the military, the veterans, took is not so easily removed once we leave the service. The average military member is not prone to self-promotion because we know it takes a squad, it takes a unit, it takes a team, it takes a crew to come home. It takes that to be successful. It's never about the one, it's about the all. So as veterans try to explain to their family and friends and people in their community what we, the military, are, or what they were, what we had to do day in and day out to be successful, well, it comes across like we're bragging. And so we kind of shorten our stories, we curtail our adventures, and we just stop talking about it. Now, my own family doesn't even know what I do. Whenever they ask me what I do, I say I take lots of naps. When I was younger, not so injured, I used to work out a lot. But that's what I tell them what I do, because that's what they understand. And besides, trying to explain something, I'm going to drive this home again, trying to explain something to people who would never truly understand it is a waste of time. Now, I'd like to take a moment to recognize everyone here that's a veteran. So if you can stand up or raise your hat or raise your hand, if you could please do that. Or if you want to say hoorah in the dialect of your service. And for civilians, the Army, they say it like they're mad at you. Hoorah! And the Marines, they go like someone grabbed them in the most inappropriate spot. Hoorah! Now, we in the Navy, we like to say it like we're part of the jazz band. Hoorah! The Air Force, they text it. And the Coast Guard, they sometimes go, huh? But, now, I love the Coast Guard and I love the Air Force. I love them all. But I want people to know what this part of the speech, who I'm talking to, because this is directly for the veterans in the room. So if you're comfortable, stand up. If you just want to raise your hand. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows who you are. Hoorah. You guys can sit down, please. To our veterans, I am not sure Americans will ever really know all that you have done. Therefore, they will never truly understand what you have done. I would like to thank you for the 24 hours and the 48 hours of nonstop action without sleep, because whatever it was, it had to get done. I want to thank you for standing the watch, man in the post with little or no sleep so others may rest. I want to thank you for your bad back and your bad knees, for the miles you carried 60 to now it's 80 pounds strapped to your back, or as you were pounded by the sea on a cold, unforgiving steel deck of a warship. I'd like to thank you for never being dry for days on end, because you were in part of the world where it did not rain down but rained sideways and up. I'd like to thank you for wearing icicles on your eyebrows and earlobes. I would like to thank you for being so damn cold, sorry chaps, so damn cold you never thought you'd be warm again. I'd like to thank you for suffering a deep dark tan, which civilians call a sunburn, that you got on your neck, face, and hands. I'd like to thank you for eating cold meals that were meant to be hot, and they were peppered not with spices, but by dirt and sand, and that same dirt and sand seemed to permeate from every orifice of your body. The Army knows that particularly well. Thank you for missing funerals at home for the people that were significant to you because the mission came first. Thank you for not being there when your children were born, or missing all the firsts in your children's life. Thank you for coming home and having your child not recognize you, or worse, you don't recognize your own child. Thank you for receiving letters or emails from people that were significant to you, telling you you were no longer significant to them. Thank you for going far from home to foreign lands, not as a tourist, but as the integral part of the American fiber. All the while, in the back of your mind, you knew it might be a one-way trip. And thank you so very much for bringing our brothers and our sisters home with honor that had that one-way trip. Thank you for executing your orders of zeal and devotion without hesitation, because you knew the execution of your orders is the very backbone of what makes our military great, and therefore our country great. You knew that when you executed your orders in wartime or peace, people you would never meet depended upon your success, depended upon you for their safety. I salute you for your service to our country, paving the way for people like me and the next generation of warfighters that will guide our country through the best and the worst that's yet to come. Now I'll take off this bucket. Listen, I'm going to try to break it back down for the civilians, all right? The veterans that we honor here today come from every aspect of America. Today's military is an all-volunteer force, but that is only a recent phenomenon. A good number of our veterans were drafted, or as I like to say, voluntold. However, their dedication and devotion to this country was no less. And perhaps they gave a little bit more because they had to adjust their life plan. They had to leave their homes, they had to leave their families, and it wasn't part of it. Their service came at a cost, a price that I don't think this country could ever really repay, but I would offer this country's a whole lot better for. But volunteered, voluntold, they served with honor. They all did, with little or no recognition. If you think a free meal at Applebee's means something, it's a nice gesture, but think again. They embraced being part of something much bigger than themselves. They took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And they took that oath regardless of the politics or the politicians of the day. They stood up with their heads held high when their country needed them. And by the way, this country always needed them. They will always need them. They became the icons of liberty, champions of democracy, symbols of hope and freedom throughout the globe. They are the cornerstone of what is great about this country. Mark my words, you'll find no better ambassador to the United States than a man or a woman that has worn the uniform. So I say, it's time to go beyond gestures. And this is my challenge. 22 is way too high of a number. It's unacceptable. Veterans cannot depend on the federal, state, or local governments to really help. I know this sounds arrogant, but our government would not exist if it wasn't for the sacrifices of the veterans. You'd think they'd be a little bit more appreciative. Those elected officials, they talk a great game, especially during election cycles. But their actions prove that a lot of times we wearing the uniform are just a photo op. But our country isn't about elected officials. Our country is of the people, by the people, for the people. Abraham Lincoln. So I challenge everyone here to bypass the ineffective bureaucratic government agencies and take a little bit of your own precious time for our veterans. Actually take the time to talk to a veteran, and that little bit of effort that you do might make a difference. You actually might be a hero that nobody talks about or knows about. You yourself might not even know what type of hero you are. But one person might. One person will know how much of a hero, how much of an impact you have on their lives. It only takes only one ray of sunshine to make a flower grow. We got to defeat this 22 number. I'll get with the Taliban later. Let's focus on 22 at home. Again, pretty somber. It wasn't my intent, but of course it always is. I thank you very much for giving me the honor to honor some of the greatest Americans ever to walk the earth, the American veteran. Hoorah.
Words from Patrick Henry sparked a revolution. Liberty is the foundation of our great nation. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are empowered by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty will look easy by and by when nobody dies to get it. These words from George Washington at Valley Forge remind us that we must never forget those who have paid the ultimate price for an unalienable right of liberty. A letter from Abraham Lincoln to a bereaved mother who lost her 5 sons to the Civil War speaks the conscience of a nation. He says, "I feel how weak and fruitless must be any word of mine which should attempt to beguile you from your grief of loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of a republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage your anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of a loved and lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have had laid such a costly sacrifice upon the altar of freedom." The fight for liberty is an ongoing battle. John F. Kennedy so eloquently challenges a new generation to carry on the torch of freedom in his inaugural address. These words are as meaningful today as they were when he said them in 1961. We observe today not as a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that rights of man come not from the generosity of state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget that we are the heirs of the first revolution, proud of our ancient heritage and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights for which the nation has always been committed. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any freedom, oppose any foe to assure the survival and success of liberty. This and much more we pledge to you. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America can do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. I just want to take a second to thank Captain Miller for his wonderful comments today, and I know for one that my family and I will be taking you up on your challenge. Thank you. But I do have to disagree with one of his comments. You had stated that you don't have a real job. And I disagree with that. I think, for one, that you and the rest of your fellow veterans and those currently serving have the toughest and most important job, and that is protecting my family and the millions of families across this great nation. And I, for one, am thankful for all the effort and years of service that you and your fellow veterans have put in. When Armistice Day was officially started, there was a moment of silence for all those that fought in the Great War, and a minute of silence for all those families and friends who had experienced loss during the war. We want to thank all veterans and their families with us today for their service. Please observe a moment of silence to honor all of those that have fought in our country and continue to fight for freedom. Thank you. Now please observe 1 minute of silence for those families that support our troops. Thank you. Now the Walnut Creek Concert Band will perform a very special part of the ceremony, the Armed Forces Salute, in which each branch of service is recognized with their own military song. We encourage veterans to stand and sing along, if appropriate, when your anthem is played. Thank you, Harvey, and the band members. I always enjoy seeing such pride and patriotism and the feelings that we have by the affiliation to our armed forces. Before the Walnut Creek Concert Band concludes our ceremony, I would like to again express my deepest appreciation to our keynote speaker, Captain Jeffrey Miller, Chaplain William Herbert from John Muir Hospital, the Walnut Creek Troop 810 of the Boy Scouts for the presentation of our colors and for their helping hand of the program this morning, Harvey Bernstein of the Walnut Creek Concert Band, and of course all my colleagues who joined us here today to honor our military service veterans. Your presence here today and that of the people gathering across our great nation is a tribute to all of our troops, both past and present, and to their families. It is our way to say that we do remember. From the soldiers who survived and shivered and starved through the winter of Valley Forge, to the doughboys crouched in the muddy trenches in France, to the platoon who patrolled the hazy jungles of Vietnam and the young men and women that are currently in the mountains of Afghanistan, we remember and we do honor you all. Thank you all of you for attending today, and most especially, thank you to you veterans who not only fought with honor to provide each of us with the benefit of greater security, allowing us to live in a world that is much better because of your sacrifice, and to providing us the opportunity to participate in the most free and prosperous country in the history of humanity.
Thank